What's up, everybody? You are tuning in to the Layover podcast, the official marketing and B2B podcast of the Lost In Network. And we have a great guest for you today. We're going to be talking about a specific niche of the travel industry, those people who love to explore the world through the lens of riding beautiful motorcycles and other motorsports equipment as they explore the country and also the world. And we have Sebastian Schoepe, the CEO of EagleRider, with us today. EagleRider is a motorcycle experience company. They are one of the largest motorcycle rental and tour operators in the United States, and also through their international network of partners and franchisees. Prior to that, he was the CEO of Gold's Gym during their epic turnaround, and spent time at Merlin Entertainment. So he knows the hospitality industry well. Seb, thanks so much for coming on and spending some time with us today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me, Dylan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. So, I talked about a few notches in your career belt, but, I'm always interested in hearing people's origin stories. Where'd you grow up, where you went to school, how you got involved in the hospitality industry. I know in Germany they have this special apprentice education system. So wondering if that had any part in your career. But yeah, I would love to just hear a little bit about how you got involved in this whole world. So
Yeah, of course. I was, like you said, I'm originally from Germany. I was born and raised in a small town outside of Berlin. I actually spent most of my life in a small village with 300 people, and
oh
making my way all
wow,
the way to Los Angeles is actually a fun story, I think.
let's
And
go.
I started.
I don't know if you knew this, but Lost In was started in Berlin 11 years ago. So
Oh, awesome! Yeah, it's
yeah.
the greatest city in Germany, I think. Don't let the people from Munich hear it, but it's for us it is. It's a very eclectic city. Like spending time there as well. So I started my career, like you said, with Merlin Entertainments. They own tourist attractions and theme parks like Madame Tussauds Wax Figures, Sea Life Aquariums, Legoland, all those different attractions. And I used to design those for the Central and Eastern European countries. Fly out, find locations, work with the brand directors and the architects, and bring those attractions to life. Did that for a few years before being based out of the UK, and then moved back to Germany in 2012 and joined one of the largest fitness operators in Europe, based in Berlin, and did that for about 4 years as the VP of product management, basically designing gyms for all European countries that we were in. And in 2016, I made the jump across the pond and moved to Los Angeles to set up the operations for that fitness group here. Before then, in 2020, learning about the opportunity of acquiring Gold's Gym. They ended up in bankruptcy, or the old ownership group went through bankruptcy during COVID, and I took over as the CEO in August of 2020. So trying to run a gym chain at the height of the pandemic, where people sweat and breathe on each other, may not be the easiest task, but they were in bankruptcy, so how much worse can I really do?
Yeah, right.
We managed to turn it around fairly quickly. Within 10 months, brought it back to profitability and grew it to a healthy margin over the next 3 years. They're based out of Dallas, which brought me back to my days in high school. I actually did an exchange year just outside of Dallas, and then went to college in Baltimore to Loyola. So I've been in and out of the States for quite some time. So it was great to come back and now find my footing in business. And at the end of 23, I decided this was it for me at Gold's Gym. And I've achieved what I wanted to achieve there, set him up for a good path, I think, and took a sabbatical. Everybody talks about it, nobody does it. So it took about 6 months off. And then this opportunity with EagleRider found me. So it's great, to be back with my hospitality degrees and then work in hospitality, then a little detour through fitness, back into hospitality is a great outcome for me. And I've enjoyed this time so far. We've spent about a year here with EagleRider as a customer before, but then joining a year ago. And I think the team and this group has made some great efforts in convincing people that motorcycle travel is actually the best way to travel and experience the nature as it is intended, unfiltered.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to ask a little bit about how you found the opportunity because, obviously, through doing my research on you, I learned a little bit about your story, about how you became a motorcycle rider. The first time you ever rode a bike was when you rented one here in Los Angeles and did a trip down to Palos Verdes. So you are very much the prototypical customer, or at least, trying to grow the category versus just take market share or take awareness. It seems like you were very familiar with how that process unfolds. So would love to hear a little bit about that. But also, I think people become, affiliated with the brand through being a customer. How did you become the CEO? Did they come looking for you? Did you go looking for them? I think that's a pretty interesting story in itself.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And it never occurred to me to ride a motorcycle. When I was still in Germany, I had my little 50cc scooter that I was using around Berlin, beating traffic and parking on the sidewalk and just walking straight in, not being bothered by looking for parking lots and other things. So, but then I moved to the US and I wanted to upgrade from that 50cc, that goes 35 miles an hour, to a larger Vespa. And in order to do that, you would need a motorcycle license. So I went to the DMV here, and it's fairly simple to do that in California, or actually around the US, especially when it comes to riding, like safety schools, like one weekend, and they teach you the basics, and then you can start practicing on the open road. So my intention was just to get a Vespa that goes faster and with a larger engine, so I can actually, align with traffic. Well, actually, a slow scooter is probably fine for LA because you sit in traffic all the time. But I didn't want to risk it. So that was the main intention. And then the company's founder that I was with before, he came over to the US and said, during the visits and while I was building the business, said, "Hey, you have a license now. Let's go rent motorcycles." Well, the problem is I took the test on the Vespa, so I had to figure out how to shift gears. Actually, I don't recommend this to anybody. Go to the riding safeties, do the safety school, take the weekend. They will teach you everything. Do it this way. Don't do it my way. And then in 2017, I remember specifically because I still have a picture of it from the parking lot here at this LA location. That was the first time I rode a motorcycle, and it was with EagleRider at the same location where I'm now. So it's come
That's
full
wild.
circle after about 7 or 8 years from the very first motorcycle ride ever to becoming the CEO. And to answer that question, they found me, through LinkedIn, and as I was looking at new opportunities. And one of the executive search firm, managers thought outside the box and was like, okay, Gold's Gym is more than a fitness club. Gold's Gym has a legacy. There is an experience. You see people wearing, Gold's Gym t-shirts around the world, even in countries where we didn't have any locations. So maybe I can help a legacy brand like EagleRider that's been around for over 30 years make this a little more attractive to the younger audiences. And my goal when I joined was not to change what EagleRider is. I just want to make people aware how great it is to ride and what you can experience on two wheels, and convince people to actually come and check us out and make it accessible to more people. So again, it wasn't on my radar to own a motorcycle. Now I own 5, so that didn't go as planned.
Let's go.
And then I started renting, and then I bought my first bike after my first 3 rentals. I went out and bought a Harley-Davidson Road Glide, one of the biggest bikes you can get, with the bags and the speakers and the GPS, because I wanted to discover more about America and take the back roads, and because everything was new to me. And then I started building my fleet, if you will, from there. And then they found me, and it seemed to be a good fit. Driving this forward away from just a rental company, because we don't just rent bikes; we create those experiences on 2 wheels that will last, a lifetime. Those memories that you create while being out on the road with us.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you talked a little bit about Gold's being, one of those iconic lifestyle brands. People wear Gold's Gym merch, or let's call it, shirts, even if they don't go to a Gold's Gym, even if there isn't a Gold's Gym anywhere near them. You and I talked a little bit off camera at the beginning of the show. I have Harley-Davidson shirts. It's something that I collect as I go to. I have a Harley-Davidson shirt from Moscow, Russia. I have one from Hawaii. I have one.
Wow.
I have probably 10 Harley-Davidson t-shirts from, just visiting different places. And I also have, a pair of Harley-Davidson boots. And I've ridden all the men in my family. I like to joke have Harley Davidsons except me. But it's always been an aspirational thing that I've wanted to do. And, my wife was very against them when we first got married. And when I moved her down to San Diego, she basically said, if you want a sailboat, a plane, a Harley, whatever you want, if we can live in San Diego, you can have it. And then when it became something that I could no longer, it was like not something that I couldn't have anymore because of, my agreement with my wife, then it actually became a little bit scary to me as a consumer to like, okay, it's very daunting. I've got to go get the license and do all these things. But I really enjoyed doing the research on you because I found out, how easy it is to first of all get licensed and be able to access these bikes, these amazing bikes. But I think that's another thing that's very daunting from like a new consumer wanting to approach the market is that once you get the license, then like what bike do you get? How do you, it sounds like from my research, when you go to a dealership, you can pretty much just drive it around the block. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you guys kind of see yourselves as a gateway to the category, as an extension of essentially the test drive for the OEMs? And then I'd love if you would also expand a little bit on your fractional ownership or membership club where you pay a small fee per month and you can check out a bike of varying sizes per month. I know that was a lot to throw at you at once, but why don't you grab one of those questions and expand on it?
No, of course. And this is a dilemma that I faced as well after I got my license. I knew I was going to ride the Vespa, but then, I fell in love with motorcycle riding, and I went from that Vespa to that Road Glide, and it's a 750-pound bike. Like that was my first real motorcycle. And
That's crazy.
I'm 6'4", like I'm big enough. I think I can handle the bike, but it wasn't a great idea. And there's very little guidance out there. And what we offer, because people sometimes think that we are very Harley centric and we only offer Harley Davidsons, which is not true. We also have the BMWs, we have Triumphs, we have zero electric motorcycles, we have Yamahas, and we have adventure bikes, street bikes, performance bikes, the cruiser bikes. You can try any bike. And you were right. When I went to the dealership in Glendale, they take you around the block for about 3 miles. And then are you going to pay $30,000 for a motorcycle based on a 3-mile ride? But I had the opportunity to ride, around Malibu and going up to Ojai. And then I rode another Harley Davidson from Miami all the way to Key West. So I spent like 15 hours on that bike. Like, okay, that's the bike. And that's when I went to the store and went through the motions of that little, the 3 miles around the block. And that's when I decided, okay, this is the bike for me. And that's what's missing sometimes when you go to the dealers. However, when you come to us, you're basically putting, a little money at risk to rent this bike for a day and just before you drop 10, 12, 15 or $20,000 on a motorcycle, spend $100. If you're not a club member, just bring it and just try it out. If it's really for you, it's almost, I don't want to say it's like a magic wand, like it chooses you, but sometimes you really like a bike from the look and you get on it. It's either too big, too small, it's uncomfortable, it's not ergonomic for you. It may be perfect for somebody else, but this way you can try out certain bikes. And that's when we decided to launch years ago Club EagleRider, where you pay, it starts at $29 a month, and that gets you a credit per month. And that credit you use for a bike. So you're basically renting a bike for $29 plus insurance if you want to add it and taxes. But you can try out all different bikes in the fleet for a very, very small cost, just to make sure you're in the right ballpark. Do you want that cruiser feeling, where you laid back and you just enjoy the landscape? Do you want to sit, a little more forward? Do you want power? Do you want that, that faster engine? Or do you want to take it even off-road at some point and, need an adventure bike because you live up in Big Bear and you want to hit the back roads up there? So that's something that we can offer is not just like one specific experience of cruiser bikes or performance bikes or cafe racers and whatever they're called, but you have the ultimate garage, and that club component is your access to that garage.
Yeah, I love that. I want to go back to you mentioned you actually took a legitimate sabbatical, and that's something that a lot of companies, encourage. So they say, Did you travel during that sabbatical? Did you spend time traveling on your motorcycles, or was that before? Or no, that was when you were already into riding, right?
Yeah. That was into while I was into riding, and I did take it out, a couple trips here and there. I did the once you start riding and you travel somewhere to a nice destination, you look at roads differently. You're like, okay, this will be a great road to ride on. Well, but you're in a taxi or in a bus or a rental car, and like, okay, this is because it's more convenient than riding a motorcycle. And we always say with our location, so we have 150 locations around the world, and we always say we're like golf courses. We're in the most beautiful areas of the world. So if there's something to see, we probably have a location there. And it doesn't matter if it's the Alps, if it's South Africa, if it's Australia, if it's up in Vancouver, like riding into Banff and all these different things. So we have a location there, and you start looking at the roads differently. But the biggest trip, or the most transformative trip I had, was actually still during my time with Gold's Gym, when we had the first franchise conference after COVID, because you had hundreds of franchisees in the audience in Vegas, and all lights are on you. And like, what are you doing with the company? How are you turning it around? What are the next steps? And where's the support structure that the franchisees actually pay for as well in their franchise fees? So after those 3 days, I was completely obliterated, and I was so tired. And I flew back from Vegas to LA, and I decided to pack only 2 bags, and jumped on my bike for 10 days. And I rode from LA through Lake Tahoe to Portland, all the way to Seattle. And then I
Wow.
went back down on the ocean side. So I did the 101 and then cut across to Pacific Coast Highway, and took about 7 days or so to come back to LA just by myself. I just had an iPad with me to check out the route for the next day, but I stayed off social media. I checked in with loved ones, obviously, that I'm okay and riding. But it was 10 days just on my own, recalibrating and unplugging. And I think this is something that people sometimes underestimate when you're thinking about motorcycle riding. Yeah, you have the crazy guys splitting lanes at 60 miles an hour. You know, okay, there are these riders, but then there's also relaxed riders that just use it to unplug, because we're consistently and constantly connected to everything, and news spreads so fast. If I'm on the bike, I have my helmet on. My team always says, "Hey, get a Bluetooth helmet so we can talk and you can listen." I'm like, I don't want that. I just want to unplug.
Mm.
And you can wait an hour. I get off the bike every hour. I was like, it'll be fine, but it's the ultimate sense of freedom, and that's what I felt during that. Like, after being grilled by the franchisees, rightfully so, and then taking a step back, and then just being on my own for 10 days, and riding through Washington State, around Seattle, and then through Oregon. I mean, there are worse places in the world, and had good weather too. So
Oh my gosh, so
that
good.
was a beautiful ride. So that was more during my time with Golds. And then once you start doing that, you look at nature differently.
Yeah, I love that. Um, I have a similar experience, when I'm doing mountain bike riding.
Mhm.
I don't do cycling because I'm a little bit scared of traffic.
Yeah.
But I do, I do. But I think sometimes you have it in your head, traffic is dangerous, but like going down a hill with a bunch of rocks and crevices at 60 miles an hour, on a dirt road is somehow safer flying down a mountain. But whatever, we all make our justifications. But one of the reasons I love surfing so much is for that element that at least up to this point, they haven't figured out how to get cell phones inside of surfboards. So you can
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
out, go to the beach, go surf for an hour or two, whatever, and you leave your phone at home. But I love this idea of motorcycles being a connection point to experience the outdoors differently. I actually am a huge fan of driving. A lot of people hate sitting in cars, but I like road trips. I just got back from 2 weeks in France and Italy last night, actually.
Mhm.
And one of the cool things that we did unintentionally, a lot of times we'll just rent a car as a family and just drive from city to city and not really have any plans. But one thing that I noticed particularly is we set a path from Cannes to Milan, but then we turned off free tolls,
Oh,
so we
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
go through the toll roads. And the way that it happened to take us is over the French Alps into the Italian Alps, up the Tour de France route to the big ski resort. I think it's called Soleil or something like that. But wow, like so many folks, mainly out on BMW tour bikes, and
Mhm.
there's this place on the border where it's literally the border of the French and the French Alps and the Italian Alps. There's a little restaurant that's cash only, no Wi-Fi, old World War II fort. Some of the ski lifts reach all the
Mhm.
way up there, and at the top, like 100 guys on BMW bikes
Yeah.
just parked to like take in the view from both sides of the summit there. But I never thought of motorcycles being something that you can kind of unplug, because you figure, oh well, you can have your phone there, but you have to be like a mountain climber.
Mhm.
You can't be distracted. Like even more
Yep.
so, you need to be aware of your surroundings and not being distracted by devices and such.
Yeah, I agree. And they always say, ride like you're invisible, not invincible. And that's how you really
Mm.
have to maneuver with the bike. And it turns like when I left here, when I leave the office here, I have half an hour commute, back home, and I'm shutting off work because I have to concentrate of where I'm going. I ride the bike every day. So you have to pay attention to this. And, speaking of this mountaintop, one of the, and you see and you take those scenic routes, especially in a car. I think I mentioned earlier now that what you smell and what you feel actually matches the
Mm.
visual. And I always bring this example when we talk about this. I took a trip to the Grand Canyon. It was Thanksgiving week, like in 2019 yeah, I think it was 2019. Pretty cold, and my German brain didn't comprehend that the elevation is actually 8,000 feet of the Grand Canyon. I thought it was a
Mm.
hole in the ground, but actually you make your way up to a plateau and then you kind of drop. So I didn't do my research well. But anyway, so when you pull up to these scenic stops, and people get out of their cars next to you and they go, oh, it's chilly up here. Like, nope, it's been like this for 50 miles. But they don't know
Wow.
because they're in their car, with the AC on, radio playing, and say, oh, this is a nice road. Look at this. But you feel all the temperature changes. You feel the smells changing, and you're basically cutting through nature, and that's a really beautiful thing. And as soon as you leave LA, there's beautiful riding, and once you leave the metropolitan, I was just in Chicago last week, and we rode through northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. Highly underrated. Like, there's so many beautiful lakes. I went to Lake Geneva, and rode around the lake there, and had stopped by the cafe right on the lake. Like, it's just beautiful to see that. And yes, there is the risk side of riding motorcycles, but once you're out in the open, where we take our customers, when we do our tours, for example, we do Route 66, we do the canyons, we do volcanoes and canyons up in Canada. Where we ride, there's rarely any other person, because we want you to see the beauty of the nature, and it's not the 405 that you're taking, but you have to take a bad road to get to a good road. So I think once you leave the urban areas, and like you did on your trip, stay away from the civilization and just go and see where the road really takes you, and then you discover those moments, like up on the mountaintop. And yeah, that's where we stop and just taking the scenery. It's not about racing bikes or being the fastest or do anything like that. It's experiencing the freedom. And it's, to me, riding is the closest thing to flying. I mean, skydiving probably is, but like on the ground, there's something very freeing about it.
Yeah, I love that. I never, until this conversation, thought of motorcycle riding as outdoor recreation, but that
Mhm.
really is a big component of it, because you're essentially like, I drove a convertible. I drove a Camaro Super Sport 2002 when I was younger, before I started having kids, and just that ability to smoke a cigar while you're going down the freeway, or take in kind of everything around you. But I could imagine, I can see that similarity. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So of all the trips you've been on, what's one that didn't meet expectations, or people could skip it? You would
Yeah.
say like maybe not worth going back and checking out.
It's a tough question, because it rarely ever happens that a rider gets off a bike and doesn't say, "Oh, it's a pretty good ride, huh?" It's the first thing, or it's pretty cool, right? And there's always something. Um, I hope I don't offend anybody. Jersey Turnpike, probably not the best road. It's pretty boring. It's a straight shot. But I have to also say, it was we did it in, I believe it was July or August of last year. So it's like 95 degrees, just a straight shot. There's forest left and right, and it's not the most entertaining. Same with Alligator Alley in Florida, going from Fort Lauderdale or over to like Fort Myers, straight shot, 100 miles. Those are probably not the most exciting, but at the end of the day, we had a great trip because the one Jersey Turnpike went all the way from DC to Boston and rode around the Boston
Mm,
area, Western Mass, like beautiful riding. It's just part of the journey, I think. And what I find fascinating is I went from Albuquerque to Santa Fe, and you can go through the mountains. You can take the freeway or you can take the mountains, and there's a small town called Madrid, like an old mining town. And you go one way, and then you usually don't want to take the same road back in a car because you've already seen it. But what's really fascinating to me that I never realized until I actually did it is when you're on a motorcycle and you take the same road back, it's a completely different experience. Everything looks different. Maybe not the town that you go through, but the mountains that you saw, you have this climb up, but then you have a climb down, like you have a ride down. So that's something that was fascinating to me, that you can take the same road twice and will not be the same ride because the weather changed
mm.
or the temperature changed or the direction changed. So that was pretty cool. But then there are some boring stretches. But at the end of any boring stretch, there's usually something nice to
Usually a
see.
nice payoff.
Otherwise you wouldn't put yourself through that boring stretch of land.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, talk about accommodations for a trip like this. Like, are you staying in a certain type of lodging? Are you ever camping? Or are you staying in, 5-star, Four Seasons hotels and pulling the bike? Like, what is a typical lodging experience on a trip like this, or maybe even one of the tours that you guys operate?
So like I said before, where we ride, there's a very little civilization, and that's what makes the riding so beautiful. So you are somewhat limited in terms of options, that you have, for accommodation, but also food and beverage options are rather limited. It's usually a saloon somewhere in the middle of nowhere, which is the great all American experience, which our international customers love, obviously. So we stay at motorcycle friendly hotels, like three-star hotels, sometimes 4-star hotels. But they need to be accessible. They need to be in the right spot because when we do our tours, we accept up to 15 or 16 bikes per tour. And we have our guide up front, and we have the 16 bikes, and then you have a support vehicle with a van. So it's a van and a trailer with a spare bike. So
Mm.
it's pretty big. It's a pretty big group. And because you have people coming in from all over the world, you have domestic customers. We have all different levels of riding. So the way we set up our tours is that every hour we stop somewhere. Either it's gas, either it's a bathroom break, it may be ice cream, it may be something cool to look at. But everybody knows, after an hour, sometimes it's 50 minutes, sometimes it's an hour 10, but somewhere around an hour we always stop, which gives them comfort and knowing what's next. So you don't have to ask the guide, when's the next stop? No, it's 1 hour. It's always 1 hour.
Mm.
So we have to make sure when we plan those tours that a certain accommodation actually fits that schedule because, well, I ride, 250, 300, sometimes 350 miles a day. These people are on vacation. They don't want to ride 300 miles. They want to do 150 miles, look at cool stuff, buy some t-shirts, and then, have a great time as a group. And then, so we gotta plan it in a way that we find the right accommodation that is up to our standards, motorcycle friendly, and in the right location. But we're also working on some tours that we haven't communicated yet, where we actually go the opposite, where you have, high-end bikes and a different clientele, where we go through Napa Valley and we have, the nicest hotels and we have some wine tasting after riding, of course, and some nice restaurants. So that's something we're curating as well because there's a clientele out there. And that's what I love about the motorcycle industry. It's so inclusive. You will ride with a proctologist and a plumber and an attorney and a student. But once they put their helmet on, everybody's the same. And even celebrities are invisible when they put on the helmet because they can move freely. Nobody knows who they are when they're riding a motorcycle. So that's what I loved about Gold's Gym, where people go to lift weights. It could be a manager, it could be somebody flipping burgers. It doesn't matter. You're at Gold's Gym and you're representing that brand. And we're all the same because once we put gym gear on, we're all the same. That's the same in the motorcycle industry. So we're trying to now work on products that are tailored towards those different target groups. The high-end customers that would love a little more luxury on those tours, and some that want the rustic experience when you go through saloons and the canyons of this world. So, um, that's what we're working on, the higher end products, but then also keeping, the actual American dream of riding, Route 66 and seeing all these cool things as well for our customers.
Yeah, and I think you also mentioned you guys are building out some products to kind of bridge the on-road and the off-road communities, but also even talking about different modalities of motorsports products. So maybe, half the tour is on road bikes of some sort, the other half is on bikes that have the ability to go on off-road or dirt road, and even switching over to side by sides or Polarises or off road vehicles. Really, you've positioned EagleRider as experiences with things with motors, not just motorcycles. Do you want to talk a little bit about the evolution and how that is maybe bringing more people into the category, or expanding the tent, or expanding the offering?
Of course. And I think this is the next step when you talk about unplugging. There's no, like, once you ride through the Mojave Desert, like, you're unplugged. There's nothing there. And Death Valley is the best, except for Furnace Creek, but otherwise you don't see anything out there. And that's the most unplugged I think you'll become when you're traveling. But we did launch our off-road experience in Las Vegas. It's side by sides, like you said, Polaris and Yamaha vehicles, and we'll take you out to the Mojave Desert. You see the wild Mustangs, tortoises, and we take you. It's about a 2-hour tour out of Pioneer Saloon. That's about half an hour south of the Strip. So we go out there. It's the oldest saloon, I think, in southern Nevada. Been around for 100 years, was featured in the video game Fallout. Like, it's a really cool experience to go there. And that's where our tours start. And we take you out and, ride about 30, 40 miles through the desert where there's nothing. And I actually went on this tour that you referred to. It was in cooperation with our Yamaha partners. And we did half on-road, half off-road, and then 2 wheels and 4 wheels. And that's when I found out off-road riding is not for me. It was a great experience, but when you say mountain biking and you're riding down the hill at 60 miles an hour and gravel and rocks everywhere, I don't want to worry about falling. Like, I'm not that rider. Like, I don't ride. So sometimes people think, come to EagleRider and, to sharpen your motorcycle skills. That's not what we do. We're a sightseeing company on 2 wheels.
Yeah, you're not a racing training school.
Correct. And
Yeah.
you will be a better rider at the end of it because you've ridden again, but we don't necessarily teach you how to become a better rider. You just become a better rider through practice. But then there are partners out there, Champ School and others, that will teach you how to, and I did that too. I did a speedway training with them, how to ride a speedway in Vegas. We did that. Also found out that's also not for me because, again, you worry about falling. You put a full leather gear and all these things. So it's not for me. Again, a great product, and I enjoyed my time there, and I've became a better rider. But I'm the type of rider, and I mentioned this earlier, you got to figure out after you get your license, what kind of rider are you? Do you want to push yourself? Do you want to be more skillful, sharpen your skills, or do you just want to look at your cool stuff on 2 wheels while listening to music maybe, or turning everybody off? So I'm that rider. Like, I just want to unplug and just enjoy the landscape. We're not pushing anybody. But in an effort to bring in, other clients that may be interested in that off-road experience rather than on-road experience, or don't have that license but want to get a similar experience, we have the side-by-sides in Vegas where we take you out. And if that is your intro point to EagleRider, thinking if you haven't heard of us, okay, they do these off-road tours. Oh, they actually do motorcycle rentals as well and tours, and I can do this in Australia. That's even better. That's how we think about this, and integrating more power sports experiences rather than just motorcycle rentals.
That's cool. And I listened to an interview where you had recently attended Sturgis for the first time. I think you shipped your bike, one of your personal bikes, to Denver to go down to Sturgis. One is, what is the experiential side of the motorcycle industry, kind of these biking festivals like? And then 2, do you guys have tours designed around these larger motorcycle gatherings or these larger motorcycle events?
So the Sturgis rally is interesting. It's the largest Harley-Davidson rally in the world. And this year it's its 85th anniversary. So they're expecting a little over 1 million riders to go to the Black Hills in South Dakota. And it's beautiful riding up there. You have Mount Rushmore, and then all these different Badlands and Devil's Tower, and like all these really cool riding spots. And what's really interesting, and I alluded to it earlier, is the inclusiveness of, you show up to these campgrounds where we stay at the Full Throttle, where we have a location, and you see $1 million rig that they pull in. Is like this huge RV, and then a trailer with all their toys, and next to him is a guy with a tent and a Harley. And that's so cool to see, where golf is still quite exclusive, and all these other sports, same with like sailing and other things. But here it's so inclusive. That's what I love about this one. But it's mainly, I want to say about 95% Harley-Davidson is Sturgis. But if you go to there's a bar, it's called Barber Vintage Fest in Birmingham, Alabama. That's I believe in September every year. It's by the Barber Vintage Museum, where they have, I don't know how many thousands of square feet of bikes. Like, it's phenomenal. And it's a racetrack, but then they have every other OEM or every motorcycle enthusiast is there, not as Harley driven. It's a completely different atmosphere. Still, people from all walks of life, but you see people riding, custom bikes. They ride, bikes that they build from a lawnmower motor. Like, it's really cool. Like, it's the actual, like, just being on two wheels. So that's what the vibe is like between those two big rallies. And obviously you have Daytona Bike Week in Daytona Beach, kicking off the season in March. Biketoberfest closing the season, same in Daytona, in October. There's these rallies throughout the country and around the world. You go to a Harley-Davidson rally in India. We have European Bike Week at Farkasee in Austria. So I'll be fortunate enough to actually ride the Alps at the end of this year, which would be nice.
Oh, let's go.
Going to European Bike Week. Maybe I'll pass by that mountaintop. So those are the cool events. And yes, we do have those tours. Let's take Sturgis for an example. You can ride in from from Vegas. We can ride in from Seattle. You can ride in from Salt Lake, and you just follow our guide. And then while you're there, we still show you the Black Hills. So for those events, we always have those tours available. And then obviously our biggest, our bread and butter is the Route 66 tour from Chicago all the way to LA. That's about 14 days or 15 days, over 2,000 miles. And that's a once in a lifetime opportunity to go on those Route 66 tours as well.
Yeah. And in another interview, I know you mentioned that this is the Centennial of Route 66. I found out about it when I attended Visit California's forum that was here in town this year. So I know a lot of the destination marketing organizations that are along Route 66 have come together to create the Centennial Committee. Talk a little bit about Route 66, the importance, like you mentioned, to you as a tour operator. But what is this Centennial? What do you think it means, for that geography and, that part of American history?
Yeah, it's probably the American dream, right? Route 66 on a Harley-Davidson. I think that's the American dream. But we also see, quite a few clients, especially when they're from Europe, they opt into, the BMWs that they use around the Alps, or, our Yamaha bikes and others, Ducatis as well, that we've had them for, I think 8 months now. So also a different target group, but so you can take any bike on that Route 66 tour. But it is the all-American dream, I think, to ride that once. And everybody wants to ride it from Chicago to LA. People don't, because they want to end up on the pier in Santa Monica. That's where the Route 66 ends. And they want to ride into the sunset every single night. It's probably visually more appealing going the other way, because the sun is behind you and you can actually see how everything is like golden brown, like when you look at the reflection of the sun. But everybody wants to ride from Chicago. The way it was built, that's how they want to ride it. And then we end up with a lot of bikes in LA, and we have to ship them back to Chicago for the next one and so forth. So put them on a semi truck and taking them back up. And next year, the Centennial is important because that definitely is a once in a lifetime opportunity event. 100 years of Route 66. And we're creating something special for EagleRider. It's the largest tour that we've ever created. Like I mentioned earlier, like 15, 16 bikes is what we usually do. We're producing a tour next June, July, that is 66 bikes on Route 66. So
wow,
the tourist department
cool.
wasn't very happy when I said, "Hey, how many bikes can we put on this? Could we do 66 bikes?" And then the alternative is 100 because it's a Centennial. Like, okay, let's look at 66.
Nice,
so we'll create a tour
nice.
that is 2 days longer than our original tour, because we stop in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they have this Route 66 Road Fest. So we'll be there for 2 days to take it all in. and then we keep on riding towards LA. I'll be on the tour as well. I want to see that one. And basically, people are still going to ride in groups of 15, but in the mornings and the evenings, everybody comes together at the same hotels. Probably also the same lunch spots, but we send them out in like 15-minute or 20-minute intervals. So there's a little staggered, because otherwise it's too many bikes if you don't have police escort. But that's the big one for next year. So if you haven't done the Route 66 tour, it's definitely worth doing it for the 100th anniversary. If you have done it before, again, ride the same road twice. It's never the same. And we're adding more stops and other stops to the tour as well.
Wow. Will you talk a little bit about the economics? Having not done any researching on price, the only price point that I've heard is about that, $29 monthly kind of entry subscription fee. But let's take a tour like the Route 66, Chicago to the Santa Monica Pier. I think that route is also interesting because it's like east to west is kind of how, American migration moved from the east and kind of expanded on westward, and it kind of feels a little bit motorcycle riding to me has always felt like an evolution of like cowboy culture, riding horses and being part of the old west is kind of where that came from. But what's a tour like that cost for a person to go on?
Yeah, so we offer obviously different packages. It depends if you're alone on the bike, if you take a second person on the bike, if you're two people taking two bikes but spending the night in one room, like share a room. But usually look at between probably $500 to $700 a day, which would include the motorcycle rental. It includes all gas. It includes breakfast at most places, and then also all the accommodation as well. So I think we're at
Wow.
this. So basically, you're paying extra for any coverages, any additional coverages you would want for your bike, and then dinners and lunch, because we found out that some people don't want to have lunch. People who do want to have lunch, they want to have lavish dinners. Some of them just want like something quick and go to the room and rest. So we decided to not make that part of our packages, but leave it up to the customers. But we have a farewell dinner once you make your way to LA after 2 weeks. We have a farewell dinner, and believe it or not, I see these groups coming in. One little anecdote, maybe I see them leave sometimes from here and do like a Wild Wild West tour or the PCH tour, and I see them with the big bike, and they look at it on the website, and then they see it in real life. I'm like, that's a big bike. And they see them wobble off the lot. I'm like, oh boy. And then they come back, but they're so solid in the saddle, and they love what they did. And you have, like I mentioned earlier, people from different countries coming. You have the Italians, you have the Germans, you have the Brits, Australians, Americans, and everybody in the beginning is like, But at the end of the 2 weeks, after you've been through everything, maybe even a rainstorm, they will hug and will become friends for life at that farewell dinner. And that is so beautiful. It really is
Wow.
beautiful to see. They take one more picture on their bike. We had a guy leave a rose on the bike and thanking the bike for the great ride, and nothing happened. And it was a great experience. And so that's really nice to see. So sorry, I'm a little sidetracked to answer your question, but I think it's important to point out is, so we're in the same price point as the safaris and cruises probably. And we make it as easy as possible. You just follow the guide and follow along. But so I think you're looking about $500 to $700 a day for a tour that includes everything but a little F&B here and there and souvenirs and things like that. But we also include attraction tickets, helicopter rides, around the Grand Canyon things. So that's all included in the package as well.
Wow. Yeah, sounds very reasonable compared to some of these other types of trips people do. So I want to talk a little bit about your relationship to the OEMs, because I think you guys play an important component in the role, which we've talked a little bit about, getting butts in seats, so to speak, the ability for riders to test new models every single year, the ability for potential consumers to test new brands. But also what we've already talked about, just growing the category and creating an easier way for consumers like myself who have an interest but have never pulled the trigger. What's your relationship with OEMs? Are you guys marketing partners? Are you simply a customer that buys in bulk from them? Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with some of the manufacturers?
Sure. Most of them are proper partners. We're not interested in buying or selling motorcycles. That's important. So we're not a competitor to their dealers. That's very important. Once we have a bike and we get it from the OEM, we have different defleeting procedures. Sometimes we return it to the OEM. Sometimes, we put it in the dealer network and they can buy it and then sell it as a certified pre-owned, because we keep them up to high standards. We don't keep our fleet for longer than probably 18 months. So you always get a late model year bike. We don't have like 7-year-old bikes that we put you on and then have you ride through New Mexico, hoping that everything will go to plan. So that's what we're really proud of, is that premium price. The premium price point comes with the premium product. That's very important. And most of I want to say 90% of the OEMs we work with are our marketing partners, and they publish our tours and our rentals and the opportunity to test out those bikes with their databases as well. Because once you have maybe one, a touring bike or an adventure bike, you may need a little street bike or a little sportster bike. And then they come in, and obviously they're interested in creating those OEM branded experiences to show off their newest bikes and, all of the new features that they create. And then we also see through the back end how many people actually rent it from us, but then move on and purchase the exact same bike from the OEM.
Wow.
So we see that too. And like, I'm the perfect example. Like, I probably wouldn't have dropped $31,000 on a motorcycle if I didn't have 15 hours on that bike. So we're very close with all the OEMs.
Yeah, I think you had a quote: "At the end of the road is always a purchase," because it takes, you spend time with these bikes, and really that is the key thing that I'm sure gets somebody comfortable with the idea of spending that kind of money on, let's call it it's a luxury item, right? Nobody has to have a motorcycle. There's a lot of ways to transport and get around. So yeah, I think that quote was very apropos. And I also remember hearing that some of your fulfillment actually is within dealers. So people may go to the website and book a tour or book a rental, but they actually show up to a dealer to pick up the bike. Is that correct?
Yeah, so sometimes when you go to a resort in Hawaii and you book a car through Hertz or Avis or Sixt or whatever, and basically they have a counter in the hotel you're staying at. That's similar to what we do. So it helps us keep our costs down. We don't need a flagship facility in every single market. We're actually adding a new one in Nashville that I'm really excited about. We were in a dealership, but we're launching a new location in Nashville. You can ride the tail of the dragon, like the Smokies down there. Like, it's beautiful riding. So we always wanted a location, but never found the right one. But if we're in a dealership, it helps also the dealership. One, it creates door swings. People come in and check out, a bike for EagleRider, and they see something else. They see another, Harley-Davidson Moscow shirt, and they grab one, on the way out. It's because they pick up the bike. But also it helps the dealer say, hey, I know you're on the fence about this bike. Go rent it over there. And if you buy it, I'll just wait. I'll just take care of the rental for you. So it drives sales as well. So we benefit from a purchase after a rental in a way that we have a great relationship with the OEMs. We get the newest bikes from them. So we can continue what we do. There's no incentive for us to push people, because we, as I said, we're not buying motorcycles. We are buying and selling, but it's not our intention. We want to create experiences while they're in our fleet. And having those close to dealers helps the dealers, helps us. If there's something, a quick fix, we can put it through the service department at the dealer. And luckily, we're blessed with a lot of really great dealers that see the value we bring, one, to their location, to their customers, but also their staff when it comes to transactions and sales as well.
I love that. So from a marketing perspective, how much time do you guys focus on, or how much effort from a percentage perspective do you guys focus on trying to reach consumers that are already motorcycle enthusiasts, that already have licenses, that already drive, and you're trying to target them because you know that they might want to add a motorcycle trip to a potential trip that they're already doing, or make that part of their travel experience as much as it's part of their everyday lifestyle of owning a bike, versus time spent trying to grow the category overall and get new consumers into trying out and riding for the first time?
In the past, we've mainly focused on existing customers and asking them to rent again prior to my arrival. And you may have seen that we've rebranded over the last 3-4 months. That is also one reason. The new brand appeals to more people, and our color went from black and orange to now we call it highway yellow because it's inspired by the center lines of the highway. So it doesn't matter what you ride, you're welcome at EagleRider as long as you have 2 wheels. Unless you're in the dirt, then you can also do 4 wheels. But the main thing for us is, one, don't fire our existing customer. That's very important. We still want to offer what they love the most. But also branch out into those new categories like a Napa Valley tour, like the off-road tour. And then thirdly is, and you're one example, is like, how can we convince people or tell people how easy it is to actually get a start on motorcycles? And it is pretty simple, to take that class, and then you come and you don't have, what's like we said before, what's the next step once you have your license? You don't have to put up the commitment at once, and spend $10,000-$12,000 on a bike that you hopefully love and use, and have insurance and have storage and all these different things. Just come and pick it up for the weekend. Great weather coming up. Just come and see us and pick up a bike for the day or two or a week. At some point, I guarantee you will want your own bike because you want to customize it. And I didn't know how much money I would still spend on the bike after the purchase. Nobody warns you about this, but at some point you want to have your own bike and create it in a way that you think it needs to be the best bike for you. And so we're growing. I would say it's an even spread. Whereas in the past, we focused probably 90% on our existing customer and trying to, convert again at the bottom of the funnel. And how do we work our way up the funnel? One, get people intrigued about EagleRider. People need to know about EagleRider, get intrigued about EagleRider, and then actually convert with us. So we're working our way up the funnel in probably equal steps of people that have rented from us before, people that ride but haven't rented, and people that don't ride, convincing them and educating them on how simple it is to become part of that great community.
Love it. What are you most excited about for the future as your role as CEO of EagleRider?
I'm just happy that so far, the team has been phenomenal. Like, had a really warm welcome. We have people here that have been with this company for 25 years out of the 30 years that the company's been around. So there's a lot of historical knowledge there. But what I loved most was when I walked in with these, fresh ideas and all these different things. Again, I'm not here to try to change what it is. I just want to make it more accessible to people that may have not been intrigued by the brand before. But the way the team has helped, carry that forward, all the way to, our GMs in the stores. And I go out, and this is something on a personal, I like riding. I like being out and about and going to these stores and riding. And this, like you mentioned correctly, I rode from Denver to Sturgis last year. This year, I have 5 buddies coming over from Germany. I'm going to ride from Vegas all the way to Sturgis. Going to be 5 days, 1,500 miles into Sturgis, spend 3 days there. It's going to be a trip of a lifetime. And that's what I love about this the most. And I convince or push our people to say, go ride, go experience what it really feels like to be on that bike again. And actually, they don't need convincing. Once we ride again, it's like, okay, this is why we do it. Because sometimes you get lost in that we ride for a living, and that takes away sometimes the beauty of it. So, but then if you just ride off on your own, I think that's really cool, and just stop wherever you want to and not ride in a group. That's for me personally is what I enjoy the most. But then coming back to the professional side is just pushing the product portfolio forward only where it makes sense without sacrificing the quality that we've built over 30 years, but adding more experiences to our categories to drive more people in, and then seeing those younger faces, women riders, exiters that stopped because they had kids, but they want to come back and have those great experiences. That's what I'm looking forward to, is like, how can we build this product portfolio and add more locations as well, so that we have more dots on the map and more variety of riding throughout the year as well.
Love it. If people want to find out more about EagleRider and get involved either as a club member or potential customer, where would you like to point people to? And also, if people want to connect with you individually, where would you like to direct them?
Yeah, if you go to EagleRider.com, that's the best way. A relaunch website gives you all the information. That's pretty cool. Our Instagram channel as well, EagleRider on Instagram, and also Facebook. Those are probably the best ways to get a hold of us.
All right. Well, Sebastian, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for spending some time with the Lost In audience today. For those of you who are tuning in from home, don't forget to give us a follow, subscribe, listen, do the thing wherever you happen to be tuning in. If you want to hear more about great adventure operators and tour operators like Sebastian and EagleRider, give us an honest review. That's how this show finds a larger audience. And most importantly, if there's a motorcycle enthusiast out there somewhere in your life or somebody who you think needs to know about EagleRider, don't forget to share the show. And with that, Sebastian, I'll let you go. Thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Awesome. Thank you very much.